seen the title, we will be reading you a bedtime story. I decided to go for Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, mainly because I had that book lying around and I know that I enjoyed reading it, because I had to read it for university and I really enjoyed it. So we'll start with chapter 1 at least today. I don't know how far we'll get in 20 minutes, but we'll see, and I'll just read you a bit of Great Expectations, if you will. So I hope you enjoy your bedtime story, and let's find chapter 1. We are past the preface now, and now acknowledgements, now abbreviations. A map, in case you're interested in the map. You probably can't really see that with the light, but chapter 1. Okay, so I'm just gonna read through this first chapter. We'll see how far we get. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1. My father's family name being Philip, and my Christian name Philip, my infant tongue could make of both names nothing longer more explicit than Pip. So I called myself Pip, and came to be called Pip. I gave Pip as my father's family name on the authority of his tombstone, and my sister, Mrs. Joe Cartery, who married the blacksmith. As I never saw my father or my mother, and never saw any likeness of either of them, for their days were long before the days of photographs, my first fancies regarding what they were like were unreasonably derived from their tombstones. The shape of the letters on my father's gave me an odd idea that he was a square, stout, and dark man with curly black hair. From the character and turn of the inscription, also Georgina, wife of the above, I drew a childish conclusion that my mother was freckled and sickly. To 5 little stone lozenges, each about 1.5 feet long, which were arranged in a neat row beside their grave, and were sacred to the memory of 5 little brothers of mine, who gave up trying to get a living exceedingly early in that universal struggle. I am indebted for a belief I religiously entertained that they had all been born on their backs, with their hands in their trouser pockets, and had never taken them out in this state of existence. Ours was the marsh country down by the river, within, as the river wound, 20 miles of the sea. My first, most vivid and broad impression of the identity of things seems to me to have been gained on a memorable raw afternoon towards evening. At such a time I found out for certain that this bleak place, overgrown with nettles, was the churchyard, and that Philip Pirrip, late of this parish, and also Georgiana, wife of the above, were dead and buried, and that Alexander, Bartholomew, Abraham, Tobias, and Roger, infant children of the aforesaid, were also dead and buried, and that the dark flat wilderness beyond the churchyard, intersected with dikes and mounds and gates, with scattered cattle feeding on it, was the marshes, and that the low lean line beyond was the river, and that the distant savage lair from which the wind was rushing was the sea, and that that small bundle of shivers, growing afraid of it all and beginning to cry, was Pip. "Hold your noise," cried a terrible voice, as a man started up from among the grave at the side of the church porch. "Keep still, you little devil, or I'll cut your throat." A fearful man, all in coarse grey, with a great iron on his leg. A man with no hat, and with broken shoes, and with an old rag tied around his head. A man who had been soaked in water, and smothered in mud, and lamed by stones, and cut by flints, and stung by nettles, and torn by briars, who limped and shivered and glared and growled, and whose teeth chattered in his head, as he seized me by the chin. "Oh, don't cut my throat, sir," I pleaded in terror. "Pray don't do it, sir." "Tell us your name," said the man. "Quick." "Pip, sir." "Once more," said the man, staring at me. "Give it mouth." "Pip, Pip, sir." "Show us where you live," said the man. "Pint out the place." I pointed to where our village lay, and the flat inshore among the olive trees and pollards, a mile or more from the church. The man, after looking at me for a moment, was nothing in them but a piece of bread. When the church came to itself, for he was so sudden and strong that he made it go head over heels before me, and I saw the steeple under my legs. When the church came to itself, I say, I was seated on a high tombstone, trembling, while he ate the bread ravenously. "You young dog," said the man, licking his lips at me. "What fat cheeks have you got?" I believe they were fat, though I was at the time undersized for my years and not strong. "Darn me if I couldn't eat them," said the man, with a threatening shake of his head. Sorry. "And if I hadn't half a mind to," I earnestly expressed my hope that he wouldn't, and held tighter to the tombstone on which he had put me, partly to keep myself upon it, partly to keep myself from crying. "Now then, look here," said the man. "Where's your mother?" "There, sir," said I. He started, made a short run, and stopped and looked over his shoulder. "There, sir," I timidly explained. "Also Georgiana, that's my mother." "Oh," said he, coming back. "And is that your father along your mother?" "Yes, sir," said I. "Him too, late of this parish." He muttered then, considering, "Who do you live with, supposing you're kindly to live, in which I hadn't made up my mind about?" "My sister, sir, Mrs. Joe Gargery, wife of Joe Gargery, the blacksmith, sir." "Blacksmith, eh?" said he, and looked down at his leg. After darkly looking at his leg and at me several times, he came closer to my tombstone, took me by both arms and tilted me back as far as he could hold me, so that his eyes looked most powerfully down into mine, and mine looked most helplessly up into his. "Now looky here," he said. "The question being whether you're to be let to live, you know what a file is?" "Yes, sir." "And you know what whittles is?" "Yes, sir." After each question, he tilted me over a little more, so as to give me a greater sense of helplessness and danger. "You get me a file," he tilted me again. "And you get me whittles," he tilted me again. "You bring 'em both to me," he tilted me again. "Or I'll have your heart and liver out," he tilted me again. I was dreadfully frightened and so giddy that I clung to him with both hands and said, "If you would kindly please to let me keep upright, sir, perhaps I shouldn't be sick, or perhaps I couldn't attend more." I could attend more. He gave me a most tremendous dip and roll, so that the judge jumped over his own weathercock. Then he held me by the arms in an upright position on top of the stone, and went on in these fearful terms. "You bring me to-morrow morning early that file and them whittles. You bring the lot to me at that old battery over yonder. You do it, and you never dare to say a word, or dare to make a sign concerning you having seen such a person as me, or any person soever, and you shall be let to live. You fail, or you go from my words in any particular, no matter how small it is, and your heart and liver shall be tore out, roasted, and ate. Now, I ain't alone, as you may think I am. There's a young man hid with me, in comparison with which young man I am an angel. That young man hears the word I speak. That young man has a secret way peculiar to himself of getting at a boy, and at his heart, and at his liver. It is in vain for a boy to attempt to hide himself from that young man. A boy may lock his door, may be warm in bed, may tuck himself up, may draw the clothes over his head, may think himself comfortable and safe, but that young man will softly creep his way to him and tear him open. I am keeping that young man from harming of you at the present moment with great difficulty. I find it very hard to hold that young man off of your inside. Now what do you say?" I said that I would get him the file, and I would get him what broken bits of food I could, and I would come to him at the battery early in the morning. "Say, Lord strike you dead if you don't," said the man. I said so, and he took me down. "Now," he pursued, "you remember what you've undertook, and you remember that young man, and you get home." Good night, sir," I faltered. "Much of that," said he, glancing about him over the cold wet flat. "I wish I was a frog, or a eel." At the same time he hugged his shuddering body in both arms, clasping himself as if to hold himself together, and limped towards the low church wall. As I saw him go, picking his way among the nettles and among the brambles that bound the green mounds, he looked in my young eyes as if he were eluding the hands of the dead people, stretching up cautiously out of their graves to get a twist upon his ankle and pull him in. When he came to the low church wall, he got over it like a man whose legs were numbed and stiff, and then turned round to look for me. When I saw him turning, I set my face towards home and made the best use of my legs. But presently I looked over my shoulder, and I saw him going on again towards the river, still hugging himself in both arms, and picking his way with his sore feet among the great stones, dropping to the marshes here and there for stepping places when the rains were heavy and the tide was in. The marshes were just a long black horizontal line then, as I stopped to look after him, and the river was just another horizontal line, not nearly so broad, nor yet so black, and the sky was just a row of long angry red lines and dense black lines intermixed. On the edge of that river, I could faintly make out the only two black things in all the prospect that seemed to be standing upright. One of these was the beacon by which the sailors steered, like an unopened cask upon a pole, an ugly thing when you went near it, the other a gibbet, with some chains hanging to it which had once held a pirate. The man was slumping on towards the ladder, as if he were the pirate come to life, and come down and going back to hook himself up again. It gave me a terrible turn when I thought so, and as I saw the cattle lifting their heads to gaze after him, I wondered whether they thought so too. I looked all around for the horrible young man, and could see no signs of him. But now I was frightened again, and ran home without stopping. Okay, that shall be it for today. I'm not going to read the second chapter, but if you have made it this far, then please do tell me, what do you think of Great Expectations in general? I mean, if you don't know it, of course, then tell me what you think about the first chapter. This was just a good night story, because tonight I didn't really feel like doing ASMR, or like actual ASMR, proper ASMR, so I thought I'd read you a bedtime story as a replace, I suppose. And yeah, I hope you still enjoyed it, although it wasn't a mouth sounds video as I'd initially planned. And if you enjoyed it, please do tell me, leave a like. I'm always very, very happy about every like I can get, just because it makes me happy to know that you're happy with the videos. If you didn't enjoy the video, then please tell me so in the comments. I'm probably not gonna make that many more bedtime story readings, but we'll see. If you guys hit this one off and so happy about it, we might. Anyway, thanks so much for watching tonight's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found your way to a good night's sleep and or relaxation, and